Grand Exalted Poobah of South Georgia Tormenta, Darin van Tassell, EVT. What's up?
Big morning for me. Anytime you and I get to break bread, have a little coffee on the morning show. Love being here. I'm at training today on the pitch with
Uh-oh.
the guys. So you don't have my camera today. Not that we're secretive, but I'm happy to be outdoors. That's
Well,
happy outdoors.
I was going to
Good
say,
morning, John.
morning. I was going to say, does this mean since you're out there on the training pitch, does that mean that you're actually getting in reps? Or are you just going to leave that to Ian and the guys?
Well, I'm out here every morning. This is part of my break. I get to part of my job is being an observer and a leader and another source of input. Not so much on soccer, but just how we're doing. It's early season, big Open Cup match tomorrow with a local team we've never played before. Not sure if we have a rivalry or not, but that's one of the great parts about the Open Cup. We get to find some of those moments.
I was going to say with this, it also speaks to the growth of the game here in the footprint where you're taking on Savannah Clovers, for those who don't know, straight out of NISA. And it is another one of those instances where you get to see two teams who are separated by, maybe 45 minutes on a freeway on I-16, but it is the personification of the growth of the sport, and just so happens to be in an Open Cup where you guys are trying to climb over each other and get to the next round.
I think this is a great celebration of local soccer. That's what the Open Cup does when it presents moments like these. I think that, Nitra and I have been involved in this now for 8-10 years. And I just think about the giants and the shoulders we get to stand on, and all the folks who the last 30, 40 years helped build a culture that permitted pro soccer to come about. So this is a moment to celebrate local soccer and all those folks, those high school coaches, the middle school coaches, college coaches, academy players. And we want to pay homage to that and take the moment to do so.
And since you went ahead and mentioned academy players, you had a big signing yesterday, and once again, that continues to add to the footprint and the influence that you're having down there in South Georgia Tormenta.
Dodge Brooks, we did it at his school yesterday. We've done this one other time. Great fun. His entire senior class was out there. We had local television that went live and then showed it on the local news in the Savannah Hilton Head area. Dodge started with us when he was 8 or 9. I remember him coming to the very first Tormenta game.
Wow.
2016. And to Dodge's credit, the big difference now is not so much that he's just happy to be here, but his pro teammates are getting onto him because they see him as one and the same. It's our fifth academy player we've been able to sign to a pro contract with time. It's one of the things that U.S. Soccer and the NCAA really have the right touch on, which allows us to sign folks in our academy, but not two pro contracts, and they're completely pros. They'll be eligible for selection and playing, but it allows them to either continue to be pros or to not lose their amateur status if they want to go and play collegiately. And that's a big shift. Other sports in the NCAA umbrella can do so.
When you've got someone who comes through the system and he's been there for, 8-9 years, you knew him from when he was knee high to being knee high, and to see that continued development, obviously it speaks to what you've been building down there in Statesboro, not just on the academy level, but in all different aspects, whether we're talking League One, growing into League One where you are right now, the W side, the A side, all these different pieces. When it comes to juggling all these different things and making sure that they all grow the same way to make sure that you're not leaving anyone behind and you can continue to have moments like you have with Dodge. How much of a challenge is that for everybody there in Statesboro to grow simultaneously to make sure that Tormenta on the whole, in that organic sense, is growing as one unit?
I think the challenge that we face is no different than any organization faces. But here's where I think our challenge is even greater. If you think about a classic office culture, right, when people always went to work every day and they're on floors 2, 3, and 4, how'd you keep the folks on second floor, third floor, and the fourth floor all on the same page? Because they maybe didn't see each other quite as much. Our challenge is I drive yesterday to Hilton Head, where Dodge is a student at Hilton Head Prep. That's an hour and 50 minutes by car, and a third of our academy lives in that area. So we've got a big footprint to do. So just being able to be present, I think, is a challenge. With that being said, it's a fun challenge. It's one that I relish. I like it. I like that we have coaches all over the place. And while the shiny objects is in Statesboro, our future diamonds are in Savannah and Hilton Head and Bluffton and the Low Country of South Carolina and all around this area. And then the ones that we haven't found yet are in Metter and Vidalia and all those things in the 912 area code. That's a fun challenge. We're architects and we're explorers. We're building things and trying to uncover things and blow the proverbial dust off of those areas, and then find the right folks who need to be found. That's a fun mission. I'm not sure ours is any different than any others. It's one of scale. It's one of size. Let's be as present as we can be, and that's when the fun gets to happen. When it works really, really well. The signing of Dodge Brooks to a pro contract is one of those moments. We're going to celebrate it. And, listen, now the time is for Dodge to get on with it. Let's go and get yourself some pro minutes. It's time to go to work.
Get on with it.
Exactly.
Get on with it. So when it comes to sharing of information, I mean, and other franchises who might be taking these same kinds of steps, do those conversations exist? Do you guys share notes? Is it just League Ones? I mean, do you get calls from overseas from smaller division clubs that sit there and go, hey, how are you guys doing these kinds of things? How much of the growth of the business aspect and the growth of the athletic aspect is shared information? How many conversations? Do you have unlimited international minutes to have these kinds of conversations?
Yes, I have a wonderful cell phone plan that does that. Now, if I leave the country, it's $10 a day, so I have to keep up with it. I think the conversations are high, extremely high in League One. They're quite also high throughout the USL. They're certainly much more frequent between the championship and League One on the pro side, but even on the pre-professional side with League Two and on the academies. I think a lot of people would be surprised just how often they are coming from outside of the United States too. As a league, we've certainly gone out of our way to bring in those kinds of conversations to us collectively. It's a wonderful piece where we can use the power of the central HQ, if you will, for exposure. And I think we're doing some initiatives that are going to bring that even much more to bear here as we build up towards the World Cup. I think that international conversation is one of the real advantages to hosting the World Cup in North America. We're benefiting from it, and we're also benefiting from the leadership we have at the league. There's a lot of trust amongst the League One owners, and we have those conversations week in and week out about structurally how do we all get better.
How's the growth of the stadium and the construction? Where is that standing right now?
You can now park in a parking lot. That's important. That seems like a critical part to get more people in. You have to actually get more cars in. I still say by the end of the year, we'll see steel surrounded all the framing work that's coming up there. But listen, there's still dirt to be moved. That process is a little bit slower on the stadium. On the retail and the commercial side around the stadium, it is going like gangbusters. The Chick-fil-A signs went up yesterday, and the Starbucks opened up 3 weeks ago, and there's a Huey Magoo's. It looks like it's about to open any day. So I think when people who haven't been to a game at Tormenta Stadium in a while or see it, and certainly the viewers on TV can't see that commercial and retail side, when you're on site and you can see it, the vision's really easy to wrap your arms around.
And we've talked about live, work, play, and the ideas that are attached to USL. It's now part of the discussion in the northern suburbs of SDH HQ up in Roswell. Justin Papadakis makes a trip to Roswell. He's a Roswell kid. He grew up in Horseshoe Bend, but he gets to make a home trip And it looks like USL and Roswell are now in a letter of intent relationship until the end of the calendar year to figure out, okay, 10,000 seat stadium, USLW and USLS would be the anchor tenant. USL Championship would be a part of this as well. So, it's growing in the live, work, play thing in all of these different venues that we're talking about.
More pro soccer is better for all of us. And the most obvious omission that we have in Metro Atlanta in our state is professional women's side. So the Super League is what a home, and it should be in there. And whoever went first to get that franchise is going to be so pleased with it. Clearly, the municipality of Roswell and the mayor and the council see the vision of what a stadium-centered entertainment, live, work, eat, play district can do. USL Championship, USL League One, I'll leave that to the owners in the city. I'm pretty biased. I love that as a League One city more than a championship, but they'll be our league partners, and however they decide to pursue that sort of piece. But we've known, at least who followed soccer in Georgia for as long as we have, clearly U.S. soccer figured out it's a great home base to be in this state. The amateur footprint that is youth soccer in the South, much less Metro Atlanta, is absolutely massive.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Here's the latest example of municipalities and whoever that next ownership group will be named there about how to do it. And I think that's the right path.
So can I ask you an ownership question having to do with qualifications according to the Soccer Federation?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. With that particular idea that is attached to Roswell, Georgia, and the USL, for a first division club, if I understand the U.S. Soccer Federation numbers correctly, that the primary owner has to have at least 35% of the stake, and they have to have and I think 15 million, net worth, at least presented to the table in paperwork. Hey, I'm worth this much. And the group for Division One status has to have a total worth of $25 million in whatever pieces of paper they present to USL. For Division Two, it's still 35%. And the total worth of the individuals in the ownership group has to be $20 million. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And that's the same for League One also on what you just said on Division Two. So, yeah, those are standards that have to be met. They're pretty, listen, I can only speak to the USL. They're pretty rigorously looked at.
Right.
There's an audit that is a part of that every so often. Self-reported every year until you hit the audit every 4 to 5 years. It's definitely a number, and it's part of sanctioning. That's a real one. It's a pretty rigorous one, and because it's so rigorous, John, I think that does bleed into a little bit, since we're in Open Cup season, about the sort of the disbelief amongst a lot of owners when the decision on the sanctioning side was sort of softened a bit as it came to participation in the Open Cup, because most of for other owners and leagues, because most of our sanctioning stuff is so thorough and so multi-layered.
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't we haven't found many places where the sanctioning was softened in the past. But on the financial side, well, I can't speak to Division One. You're pretty spot on.
Okay, so then this is my follow-up to this. If one individual wanted to do in this live, work, play environment in Roswell, and like I said, we kind of workshopped it the day that it was announced, and we're like, okay, where could it fit? And then we had the Mayor Pro Tem of Roswell on, and he's like, no,
I was listening. I was a guest that day,
and
listening.
Yeah, and so he's like, it's within the city limits of Roswell itself. This is not like a team name in Roswell, and you're in the 40 acres that's available for purchase in Milton right now. It is literally going to be in Roswell, and so we were trying to figure out, okay, where could it be? And I've got an idea, and we'll see if they follow my idea. But if 25 million is supposed to be your marker for Division One status, and 20 million is supposed to be your marker for Division 2. So basically, for the USL Championship aside for USL, it would be the 20. For USLS, it would be 25. Does that mean that if you are an interested individual and want to do both, you have to have a combined 45? Or can you sit there and say, I'm worth 25. Hey, CCC, I'm good for the other 20. How does that work if you want to do multiple things in multiple divisions? Do you know?
That's a good question. My first answer is I'm not certain, but I don't know, but I'm pretty certain you don't have to double it up.
Okay.
One counts for both.
Okay, because that was the one of the other things that I was wondering about. Because if you're dealing with multiple franchises, multiple divisions, then do you sit there and say, "Hey, I'm good for it," or do you have to add them up? And that was like one of the biggest things that was in my brain after going through all of those soccer.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't have to, but I will say this:
Mm-hmm.
You better make sure your net worth is intact and together if you're going to do both.
Yeah.
Just for your own purpose, which would be sort of probably a bit more important than the sanctioning side. But I think you're right on the sanctioning. I won't have the final word on that. I don't go do the evaluations, but that's my understanding.
Okay. League One, with what's going on right now, early parts of the season, and once again, Spokane has come out and they're debuting, and they've got their shiny new barn, and they're making their waves. And One Knox is continuing to do what they do. It was a tough match last time out up there at Regal for Tormenta. When you look at League One coming here into 24, what do you see?
Well, I think we played two of the best teams in the league early on, just from watching and certainly seeing them in person in Knoxville and Madison. Those teams, I think, from a cohesiveness, from an identity standpoint, are a little further along than the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
We will all hurry up to try and catch them in that regard. We're going to have our hands full on League One this weekend with Lexington. It's a very talented team, but has really probably not found their identity just yet.
And they blew up the salary cap in
gotten.
League One, Darin. They blew up the salary cap.
Yeah, we know. And but that means they can find their identity, and we don't want them to find it, on our time.
Wait a week.
But they're not far along. They're super talented. They've got one of our former Tormenta FC legends here, and Azad Liadi, and he'll do well with Cameron Lancaster up top. But they'll figure that out. Mm-hmm. We'll have second goalkeeper playing because their first one got a red card, so he'll be suspended against us this weekend. But listen, thank goodness we have a short week this week. When you come off of a performance in Knoxville where we were less than impressed with ourselves, you want to play again, and you want to play soon. This is the beauty of baseball, by the way. You get to play every day. So if you have a bad game, you're right back in there. Soccer, you wait a week. And so we're happy with our Open Cup game this week. We've got all eyes on that one, and then we will quickly turn it to Lexington and League One. But I think it still holds with League One, and it has from day one. I've heard some commentators call us the Chaos League. I've never liked that phrase. I think we're super talented. I think every team can beat everybody, and I think that might feel chaotic to fans, but chaos sounds a little pejorative to me. But you better keep playing because every game's not in hand until it's over.
Highly competitive. I maintain that League One is one of the craziest, highly competitive leagues in this hemisphere. One more thing before you go, and thanks for doing this, especially getting ready for practice. And I know that you're probably halfway through it, and Ian's availability is coming up in 2 hours. We'll hear from Ian tomorrow. One of the other things that I wanted to touch base with you about was the bringing to the forefront the Top Soccer program. And what that does, for those that don't know, it gives soccer education gameplay to children of all ages with learning disabilities. And it's something that goes all the way back to 2019. So it's a 5-year-old deal. But what Top Soccer has done is it helps those with learning disabilities, physical, mental, emotional development, local youth. This, I thought, was another really cool addition to the three-dimensional approach for growing the game that you and Nitra and everybody down there at South Georgia Tormenta put together. So Top Soccer, what's it like to add that to what's going on down there in Statesboro?
It's the magic part of this. It's the most intimate connection that you get to have to wherever one lives. The very special athletes, of course. The brainchild for this for us is really our vice president for our academy in Brad Nine.
Mm-hmm.
The ability we've been doing top soccer programming now for 4 or 5 years. The next level, though, we first when we announced our unified team, we had 9 athletes on site with us at the stadium on Friday. Wow. I think the juice that hit everybody once our first athletes started coming, we got them in the locker room. We had their pictures up on the scoreboard. We're playing the music. And listen, it was just a meet and greet. Everybody running around, kicking goals and being athletic. We had their names in the locker room. I think we got to feel as a staff for the first time about what that newest team under the Tormenta franchise will be and grow and listen, we have it sort of geared up to where us and Greenville will have 2 games every year, home and away,
I
and
was
and
going
we
to
hope
ask about that. Yeah.
we hope that this will be our first year. We think we're going to be ready, and it's under the Unified Games are under the umbrella of Special Olympics too, and so we want to do it.
I think Darin moved. He moved from his location. He's got to go back to where he was standing to wrap up his thoughts here. And that was going to be one of my questions, was the idea of unified teams in USL League One. And he mentioned what's going on with Greenville and Greenville Triumph, and the idea that they could do 2 matches a year under the top soccer and the unified umbrella there in League One. So very, very cool stuff there with South Georgia Tormenta as they continue to add to their portfolio as well. Oh, he had video. He had video momentarily. But no, I want to get Darin to wrap up this point about top soccer and what's going on with them before he gets to head out to practice and get ready for Open Cup and the matchup against Savannah Clovers, and then turn around and get Lex SC coming up on the weekend. And so really cool stuff going on down there in Tormenta. Like I said, I'm going to wait for Darin to try to loop back into the conversation and put a bow on the whole thing. But no, very, very cool stuff. And like I said, I wanted to ask about the top soccer stuff because of how it has continued to grow and work its way through. So DVT, you were talking about possibly doing a home and home or 2 matchups with Triumph Unified.
Can't wait to be able to do that, and to sorry for the technical challenge there, but just getting another team under our umbrella. They visited it was just unbridled joy from our athletes. We all need more of that in our life, and it's going to be a big juice into the system, just a big fresh start. And quite frankly, I think we're going to be pretty good. That's the other fun part about it. Having the athletes on the field, pictures on the scoreboard, and we're just getting started with all this. We're still in recruitment and selecting the team piece. Special Olympics is a real important piece on the unified series. And so as us in Greenville get that piece right, we want to do it right, and we'll do a home and away series every year right after when we play for our Peach States Derby competitions.
Yeah.
Listen, it's the fun part, and it's I think one of the more important umbrellas, the things underneath the Tormenta FC umbrella.
Yeah, the Peach States Unified Derby. Looking forward to that. And I could not let you go without asking about that. As always, Darin, thanks for dropping by. I know it's a very, very busy week there at South Georgia Tormenta. Wanted to catch you early in the season and having a multi-competition open week, a competition week with Open Cup and with League One. Busy times down there, and thanks for hanging out with us as you always do as one of our plus ones from the absolute beginning. Thanks for letting us continue to poke our head in the door and see what's going on down there in the borough.
Always a pleasure. We're just getting started on set pieces, so I got to go watch.
Set pieces. DVT, get out of here. And there he goes. So Darin van Tassell, Grand Exalted Poobah, South Georgia Tormenta. And it's always great that we can call up Darin to catch up. But because of the conversation that we had last week with the USL to Roswell situation and the Soccer Federation bylaws about what you need to have when it comes to liquidity or notes or worth and all these kinds of things, I wanted to ask that question specifically and see if it was 25 plus 20 or if it was 25 and you're good for the other 20. So I think that's where we are. But yeah, so Unified, Open Cup, League One, stadium growth, new folks coming in USL, or at least they would like to here in the SDH footprint. So to be able to pick DVT's brain on these kinds of things, very, very cool. So half of the Grand Exalted Pubanas of South Georgia Tormenta in USL League One, Darin van Tassell. It's always great to have Darin coming on.